Aha. Hello, I am Pam Fox at pamfox.org. Hi, Lori. And I've been really busy these last couple of weeks. I've been moving, and this is my new office in my new apartment, and I'm very happy to be here. My computer is not set up yet, so anyone that comes on, I would really appreciate if you do a favor and share this out to any of our groups, any of our gastric condition, hiatal hernia, GERD, LPR groups. We get more people on here. Today I'm going to be talking about the connection between our microbiome, our gut flora, and our hiatal hernias. And that includes the connection between the gut flora and GERD, and LPR, and other gastric conditions. Hello, Stella from Milwaukee. Welcome. So I have a question here from Dee Hayes. Hello, Dee. I'm sorry to hear you're not doing well, but Dee says that she just had an endoscopy and she was diagnosed with a small hiatal hernia. She's tried a gluten-free diet, dairy-free, cut out all acidic foods. Symptoms are constant hunger, sore area under rib, burning like a bloody volcano. It stops when I eat, but it comes back. If I don't eat, I get a gnawing pain. Sometimes I feel sick. Any help, please? I have raised my bed, and if I stop eating at 7 by 11, the hunger, tummy pain is horrid. So, just, Dee, what I want to talk about today is a couple of small suggestions that you can try that may help you. My primary suggestion is always going to be, to any of you with a hiatal hernia, is to learn as much as you can about your condition and to make it your mission to reverse your hiatal hernia. That's what I did. That's what I've helped other people do. For some, it's pretty easy, and for others, it can take months or longer. Everybody's hiatal hernia is different. So that's always my number one recommendation. Learn as much as you can about your condition and holistically reverse your hiatal hernia. This is what is going to, that's why surgeons will do a surgical repair of a hiatal hernia. That's what's going to eliminate your symptoms, is moving that stomach down and out of the herniated position, because in the herniated position, it's putting pressure on a number of your anatomy that is not supposed to be there. And so by moving the stomach down, it takes all of those pressures off of your anatomy and alleviates the symptoms. Unfortunately, with surgical repairs, they're oftentimes temporary, and that, in my opinion, is due to the fact that whatever pushed your stomach up into that herniated position in the first place is still pushing your stomach up. And so you could have it pulled down, but if that internal pressure is still pushing it up, then your hernia you can re-herniate in time, and then the symptoms come back. Okay, so again, if you can, on your own, if you can reverse your own hiatal hernia by learning what's pushing your stomach up and eliminating that pressure, moving your stomach down by yourself or with the help of a chiropractor or a massage therapist. I teach you how to do it yourself. And then learning how to strengthen your diaphragm so that when the stomach does move up a little bit, it doesn't get pushed through that hiatus, because now the hiatus is bulked up and stronger. So that's always my number one recommendation. But there's a couple of things that you can try, Dee, that may be helpful. I'm going to give, I think, 3 suggestions. And the first one is not so simple, but it's what I recommend to all of my customers, and that is to go on a whole foods plant-based diet. If you're not interested in that, the reason going on I'll talk more about that, but the primary reason going on a whole foods plant-based diet will help you with your hiatal hernia, help you holistically reverse your hiatal hernia, is because it will eliminate constipation, inflammation, and bloating, and heal your gut. Eating a whole foods plant-based diet promotes healing of the gut. It's going to promote that diversity of the microbiome, which I'm going to talk more about. It's going to promote increased production of your own gastric juices, your hydrochloric acid, your enzymes, those juices that digest your food. We want our food to be fully digested. We want our food to be fully digested. And we want a good production of healthy gastric juices, because in the presence of those healthy gastric juices, that's when your lower esophageal sphincter clamps down tight, so that those juices can't reflux back up into the esophagus. So being on a whole foods plant-based diet is the #1 way that you can promote all of that goodness. Increased gastric juices, gut flora diversification, healing of the gut to reduce inflammation, reducing bloating, and one of the most important things that happens on a whole foods plant-based diet is eliminating the act of bearing down or straining when you pass a bowel movement, which that act does push your stomach up further into the herniated position. So that's really important. But if you don't want to go on a whole foods plant-based diet, you certainly can do things like incorporating in more fruits and vegetables. That's going to help. For some people, that's enough. For others, they need to get more extreme and do a very strict whole foods plant-based diet. But for some, just eating more fruit to promote digestion, healthy digestion, more vegetables to promote gut healing, this is going to be helpful. So that's one suggestion, is to eat more fruits and vegetables. So think of it as crowding out the foods that are promoting an unhealthy gut and crowding in with foods that promote a healthy gut. So foods that promote an unhealthy gut, if you've ever taken any antibiotics, if you take medications, if you eat a diet that is comprised of a lot of processed foods, so I'm talking about oils, sugars, flours, and soy derivatives, so these highly processed foods, that's going to create an unhealthy gut, and it's going to create an unbalanced gut flora. If you're eating a lot of sugar substitutes, like fake sugars, that's something you can try to cut back on or cut out altogether. And then just your typical meat, dairy, and eggs that come from conventional factory farms. All of these foods that I'm talking about, lots of preservatives, lots of chemicals. These foods that are, you have your whole foods plant-based diet, and then you have everything else. Your animal foods, junk foods. Those are the foods that are going to promote an unbalanced gut flora. Okay, and so what we want is a diversified gut flora. We want balance. So I don't necessarily believe that there's really, really good bacteria and really, really evil bacteria. It's that we need an abundant variety of bacteria, okay? And certainly the best thing you can do is go on a whole foods plant-based diet to promote that. But if you don't want to do that, you can start with what I just said by eliminating some of those other animal foods and junk foods and incorporating in more healthy whole plant foods. So that's another thing that you can try. So my next suggestion would be what I talk about here a lot on my channel, and that is moving your stomach down. And so why would that be important? Well, Dee, you talk about, let me back up really quick before we move on to moving the stomach down. So you talked about hunger pains, gnawing hunger pains, that's horrid. And so again, with the gut flora, when we have a healthy, diversified gut flora, if you've ever watched or heard of a documentary called The Aliens Within or Feeding the Aliens or something like that, it talks all about the gut, the micro-biome, and how we have all of these colonies of bacteria living in our gut, and they eat. They need to eat to survive, just like we need to eat to survive. They need nutrition, they need fuel. And so, and the different bacteria like different types of food. And so the bacteria that like your unhealthy foods are going to thrive and over colonize in your gut if that's all you're eating. And then they're going to want more of that food. And so in order to get that balance, we eat more of the healthy foods, more of the, hey Janet, more of the healthy whole plant foods in order to create that balance and to create that diversification of bacteria. And she talks about hunger pains, and I know about hunger pains, about, you eat and you're still hungry. And a lot of times we want to blame that on emotional eating, and I'm not saying that's not a real thing. But sometimes when we're hungry, it can be either because we're hungry, maybe we're calorie restricting or we're starving ourselves to manage our weight. It can also be because the bacteria are hungry, and there's the over-colonization of that bacteria. And so we need to balance that out. And so again, if we do that by crowding out the animal foods and the junk foods, by crowding in more of the whole plant foods, that can be very helpful. And one tip I want to give you, Dee, that I personally find very useful and delightful is fermented foods. Fermented foods, when it comes to those hunger pains, will really, first of all, when we have hunger pains, our stomach contracts, and that can push up against the diaphragm and against your hiatal hernia, and that can cause you to have what feels like hunger pains. We can also have hunger pains because those bacteria are hunger, and they're letting you know it's time to eat because we're hungry. Okay, and by eating fermented foods, that will really calm that down and calm the stomach down and make it feel happy and satisfied. And so some of my favorite fermented foods are pickles, cabbage, what's it called? What's it called? Fermented cabbage. I can't think of it right now. Somebody help me out. I'm not getting my comments aren't coming through, but there's kimchi, sauerkraut. Thank you. And you don't want to buy the ones that are shelf stable in the jar in the supermarket. You want to buy the ones in the refrigerator. Yes, they are spendy. You can make them yourself. They're very cheap. They're very easy to make. You can take a probiotic, but I personally believe that fermented foods are best. And kimchi, thank you, Maribel. And what I was going to say is one of my favorite ways to get probiotics into the gut is with kombucha. I know kombucha is not for everybody. Not everybody likes it. When I first tried it, I didn't really understand what all the hype was. I didn't think it tasted that good. I really have come to enjoy it. Again, you can make it yourself. It's very cheap. Bubbies, Stella, I love Bubbies. Bubbies pickles, they're great. And sauerkraut. But the kombucha, you can make it yourself. It's very easy and very cheap. You can buy it. It's pretty spendy. I buy it at my, I buy it on tap. I get a growler and I buy it on tap. That's probably the cheapest way to buy it. I've tried making it myself. I'm not doing that right now. I'm buying it. But I really enjoy the kombucha. It's a really enjoyable way to get those, those antibiotics, those probiotics into the gut to help promote that ongoing gut healing and to satiate those bacteria. So Dee, if you're having, you might want to try that. You might want to try when you have those hunger pains, drinking a little bit of kombucha and see if that helps. Now, with that said, Dee, when you drink kombucha and then you have reflux, that's going to cause just as much burning and heartburn as you're already having. So I want to move on to the movement of the stomach down. And so it's something I talk a lot about. So this is just a recap of what I've already shared, but I'm going to give you a quick exercise, Dee, that you can try. I got to get out my whiteboard so I can draw a picture on here because this is really important. Remember when I'm live, everything is reversed. See how everything is reversed? So I'm going to draw a picture of a stomach and an esophagus and a diaphragm. So this is your stomach, your esophagus, going through the hiatus, and your diaphragm. This is what your stomach is supposed to look like. Okay, so unfortunately, when we have a hiatal hernia, all of this is getting up and crowded up into this diaphragm. And in the case of hiatal hernia, the stomach moves through the diaphragm, through this hole. And so then you've got a portion of your stomach up here in the rib cage where it's not supposed to be. You've got pressure on your stomach, which you're not supposed to have, and you have pressure on your diaphragm, which you're not supposed to have. And in some cases where you have a lot of your stomach up in the rib cage, you can have pressure on your heart and on your lungs. You have pressure on your vagus nerve, which is this wonderful, beautiful nerve that innervates the esophagus, the stomach, and many of your other organs. Okay, and so if you have pressure and compromised vagal nerve function, that can cause a whole bunch of different problems. So this is why the symptoms of these conditions are so many and so diverse. They can be, with different people, they can be different. Everybody's a little bit, there are a lot of commonalities, but there are a lot of differences as well. And so what I want to say, Dee, is that when you're experiencing, you say you're experiencing rib pain, that's very natural. Again, all of this is pushed up against the diaphragm. These tissues become tender, these tissues become tender, these tissues become tender. And all of that can cause pain. The burning, the heartburn, the burning like a bloody volcano, you say. I'm wondering if you're from Australia. My friend from Australia says bloody. that pushing up of your anatomy against this diaphragm, there's a little valve here. That's your lower esophageal sphincter. And when you put pressure on that valve, it's a one-way valve, just like if you were to put pressure on a valve of a little armband or a beach ball, you put pressure on that valve and then that air can escape. Same thing happens here. So you put pressure, this pushes up, you put pressure on that valve, then the acid can escape from that stomach, and that's when it refluxes up and it burns these tissues and it causes the burning that you're talking about. And so you say you raised your bed up, that's good, and you stop eating at night. Okay, so the reason I want to show you this, Dee, is because if you can then move your stomach down and take pressure off of this valve, that's going to give you relief of your symptoms. Okay, so how do we do that? Well, there's a lot of ways you can holistically do that, and for some people there's a lot that goes into it in order to reverse a hiatal hernia. For others, simply pushing down over here on what is known as this fundus and the greater curvature of the stomach. If this is all, imagine this picture, I'm not going to draw another picture, but imagine the stomach is pushed up against the diaphragm and this is all kind of folded and crimped and there's pressure on this valve. And now imagine you move your stomach back down where it's supposed to be hanging freely and how that would take pressure off of that valve. So I'm hoping you can see clearly how by moving that stomach down, you're going to relieve your symptoms. Okay, so for some people, simply pressing on that fundus and that greater curvature will take that pressure off of the lower esophageal sphincter. So I'm going to show you. Remember, I'm streaming live, so everything is reversed. So this is my left side. This is my left side, which is where you want to focus because that's where your stomach is. So Dee, if you just sit back in a reclining position and relax your abs, that's really key. You relax your belly. You can't skip that part. It's really, really important. And for those of you like Dee with a small hiatal hernia, oftentimes this does give relief. Not always. In fact, sometimes it makes people feel more symptomatic because if the stomach is really stuck up into the diaphragm or strangulated into the diaphragm. Thanks, Suzanne. It's my new apartment. I really enjoy your pictures, by the way. You are a lovely photographer. I saw your post of the lupine just earlier before I came on. So with a small hiatal hernia, sometimes simply putting pressure on it, and again, taking that pressure off the lower esophageal sphincter can give you relief. It's not going to reverse your hiatal hernia, but it can give you relief. The true magic in reversing a hiatal hernia is not only learning how to move the stomach down to take that pressure off, but it is in learning how to strengthen your diaphragm. Okay, so that when that stomach gets pushed back up by stress, by working out, by bearing down to pass a bowel movement, whatever you're doing that moves that stomach up, if you can strengthen that diaphragm, then it won't be able to go through. It'll still push against it, which can also give you symptoms, but if you've learned how to move your stomach down, you can relax the belly, do the exercises, do a little manipulation, and get it back down again. And if you do this consistently over time, you'll get better and better at it. You will master it, and you can reverse your hiatal hernia. Okay, but it takes time. So, okay, so Dee, you want to sit in a reclining position and relax your abs, and you want to come down the left rib, find that most lower left rib. You want to come all the way down. See, I'm over here to the side. I'm not right on top of the hernia. I'm down again. I'm over here. I'm over here, and I'm going to push down here. You don't want to push on your hiatal hernia. And you can kind of play around, just really mindfully and slowly, gently play around. And if you find a little bit of a bubble, that's a good spot. Really relax your abs and gently press down. And then you just want to hold that. And if you don't feel anything happening, that's okay. You can try arching your back a little bit more. That'll lift that rib cage up and take the pressure off of your hernia. Continue to focus on relaxing your abs and just hold that and breathe. And just breathe gently. You don't have to breathe forcefully. Just take full relaxing breaths where you're breathing all the way in, and then even more important, breathing all the way out. And if this makes you more symptomatic, which it can, again, if your stomach is really caught up in that diaphragm and it's just not budging, then stop. And I have some other exercises that you can check out that more gently move your stomach down, and you can do those, on a more gentle, less aggressive fashion, so you can really ease into it. Okay? So I think that's it. So, you know, whole foods, plant-based diet, eating more fruits and vegetables, fermented foods, kombucha, and learning how to master those exercises to move the stomach down. And this takes really getting to know your hiatal hernia. It can take time. It took me time. So, but try that, Dee. You may get relief from your symptoms, you know, right away, and it may take some practice. So I wish you luck. Thank you all for watching. I'm not seeing your comments. I'm not really sure. I don't have my internet yet. I'm just going off of my neighbor's internet right now. So I'm not really sure how the connection was. So, and I'm seeing some of your comments. But anyway, so that's it for today, guys. I hope you have a beautiful day. And I'm going to take off. So thank you so much for watching.